Going to the summer school was something I looked forward to every single year that I've been going. I just love it. I just love it to bits, I really do.
For centuries, London has had a profound influence on the imaginations of writers and readers. This has particularly been the case for those who have migrated here from elsewhere. For the Irish, coming to London has been a recognisable yet often unsettling experience. Bobby Gilmore, who worked with Irish migrants in London in the 1980s, observed that the psychological journey of migration always takes far longer than the geographical one. Migration has informed Irish people's perceptions of themselves for centuries. Nowhere is this more evident than in the country's literature. The conflicts of cultural identity that migration sometimes provoke have provided the inspiration for countless writers. Since it began in 1996, the Irish Writers in London Summer School has invited over 100 of them to discuss their work.
I absolutely love the summer school. The writers that come, the visiting writers, are of the highest calibre.
I studied English literature at university, so I was used to studying writers and writing, but the chance to actually get to speak to the writers after you've studied it is incredible.
The first summer school took place at a time of great optimism for Ireland. The economy was booming, and the green shoots of the peace process had begun to emerge. Riverdance had gone global. Irish theme pubs abounded, and Seamus Heaney had recently been awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature. Here in Britain, Irish studies was thriving, and London Metropolitan University was renewing its historical mission to broaden access to underrepresented groups in the community. The summer school runs for 5.5 weeks. There's no assessment, and no prior qualifications are required to enrol. Students meet twice a week, firstly on a Tuesday to discuss a set text with each other and the tutor, and again on a Thursday to continue the conversation with the author.
It's a bit like with the format for Top of the Pops is such a strong format. It ran for years and years and years because nobody tinkered with it. And I think the format of the summer school is brilliant.
You get such a variety of people coming along and everybody's so interesting and they love literature, and I just really enjoy that.
Extremely enjoyable, it really was. I mean, almost kind of uniquely so my experience, those gatherings, because they're a wonderful mixture of highly informed and enthusiastic. The thing that it most reminded me of, to compare with, is the Sligo Yeats Summer School.
My involvement with the summer school has hugely contributed to my life as a writer. I was very drawn always towards the London Irish community, so it was very exciting for me to actually meet them. You kind of came in off the road, off Holloway Road, and then you heard all these Irish accents and so many stories. So many of their own stories came out as they talked. They're also very forthright, the students. That's the other thing about them. They don't hold back. They're very honest. I think the summer school is unique, and I think a lot of that's down to Tony Murray, who organised it.
Edna O'Brien joined us for our 10th anniversary. Her visit happened to coincide with Bloomsday, and I recall a distinct Joycean echo when she said to the students, "How could I have written about Ireland if I had stayed?"
My daughter was 14 and she just read The Country Girls, and she asked Edna a question. And I think it made lead on my daughter's evening, because when we had to leave early, Edna blew her a kiss. I also remember Polly Devlin. She was another writer that I saw, and I thought she was outstanding as well.
My first book was a complete lament for my Irishness, an utter threnody for what I had lost. And where was I, and what was the camouflage, and where did I go? And so in a way, the Irish Summer School was a pivot point for me. I began to write more freely about my Irishness, and I think that's why I loved the summer school, that this was an enabling bridge.
Ronan Bennett, he came on the very first summer school in 1996, and afterwards I remember he said how the session had actually contributed to the completion of his third novel. I also recall very well the visit of the poet Michael Donoghue. When he came into the room, he sat down, put his hand in his bag and pulled out a flute and began to play us a jig. Then he recited a poem called The Reprieve about the Chicago Police Chief Francis O'Neill, who used to collect tunes from the prisoners in his custody. As the poem illustrates, he let them go if they could play a tune he'd never heard before.
From its earliest days, the majority of guest writers have been women. Emma Donoghue, Anne Devlin and Kate O'Riordan were all early guests. The range of genres featured has also expanded over the years, from fiction, poetry and drama, to memoir and history, to blogging, journalism and children's books.
I think in particular Lucy Cordwell, who'd come when we worked with one work and then she came back later, it was another work, and you could see a massive development in her as a writer, and that was really interesting.
I've come to discuss a radio play, short stories, a novel. It's always very interesting, especially when you have participants who've been there on prior occasions, who know your work across different forms. I found that really valuable. One of the things that I love about the summer school is the deep familiarity that the participants have with your work. When you come in, the questions that they ask are really searching and they allow you to give. I've sometimes surprised myself with the answers that I've been able to give about my work because you're not asked generic questions.
The course has always featured writers from different religious traditions in Ireland. It has also hosted LGBTQ+ writers and authors from mixed ethnic heritage too.
An Irish-Nigerian writer, Gabriel Badamosi, grew up in London, left a big impression on me. He was one of those people in the summer school as a writer who attended, who shows you and introduces you to a different kind of Irishness than existed in my youth 50 years ago in Ireland.
I found a great range of people, not the people you'd find in normal academic university kind of contexts, but people who are interested in Ireland, in London, and in writers. Looking like me, sounding like me, it might be a bit odd, but it's a gap that people in Ireland have needed to jump over in order to grasp their own history, in order to empathetically connect with what happened to all those people who left. What I met in the summer school was everything I'd hoped for, but the summer school recognised me as Irish without me having to gently induct them into my Irishness. It was a given.
By prioritising writers based here, the summer school has promoted the voices of second-generation Irish authors. The stand-up comedian and travel writer Pete McCarthy came in 2002. He demonstrated how complex questions of Irish identity could be dealt with in both a thought-provoking and humorous way.
His mother had failed to spot the bottle of poitín.
The same was true of John Healy, another second-generation writer who first came in 1997.
It was a good evening, a great evening. The students were quite witty and putting questions that made me laugh. Later, after wine, the students started telling stories that might have put Dickens to shame. It could have been the Irish blood in them, or the wine, or else the Irish writing schools expert tuition. Who knows?
The extracurricular side of the course is amazing, it's brilliant. We get to go to some plays and guided walks after each session with the writers. There's an option to go across the road to a nice restaurant over there and have some food and drinks with your fellow students, with Tony and with the writer.
Over the years I've seen students from the Irish Writers Summer School come back themselves as guest writers, visiting writers, and that's always really, really thrilling. By the time the summer school ends, you just wanted to keep going, you know, it's just, and you think, oh, I have to wait another 12 months for next year's summer school.
Irish literature is currently going through another renaissance, and some of its leading new names have once again chosen London to advance their careers. On a warm summer's evening in 2019, Eimear McBride came to talk about her novel, The Lesser Bohemians.
The chance to discuss a piece of literature, to discuss a text written by somebody like Eimear McBride, who is one of my favourite writers, with Eimear McBride herself is an absolute treat.
In his poem, Digging, Seamus Heaney draws parallels between the physical labour of farm work and the mental labour of writing. This duality acquires an added meaning in relation to Irish migration. The manual contribution of migrant Irish workers has historically been complemented by the artistic achievements of Irish writers abroad. Writers continue to use the pen to dig into their memories and imaginations, unearthing and reshaping what it means to be Irish today. By connecting readers with authors, the Irish Writers in London Summer School provides a unique space in which to explore, interrogate and celebrate contemporary Irish writing.